Yeah, thanks a lot for the introduction. And yeah, you already said my focus of research is on mobility behavior. And before I start, I would like to know if there's anybody here who has significantly changed his or her behavior during the last, let's say, 2 or 3 years. Like started to bike, give up your car, or bought a car. So there's one. Don't be shy. Okay, there are a few, but not that many. We've already heard that there's a need for change, and especially we need to change our behavior. We could have we could reach these goals quite easily if we all changed our behavior quite soon. And this is also what I would like to talk about today. What are transitions in mobility that we expect, that we hope for maybe, or that we would like to achieve and like to influence and inspire? And by the way, I just wanted to mention congratulations to the designers for the inspiring exhibition. It's really a great job because, I've been there at the beginning, and it's really impressive what you've achieved. So you've done a great job, and I'm really impressed. Yeah, great. So, but now for my topics. Before talking about changing in mobility, I would like to start with what are constant characteristics of mobility behavior. So if you think of a typical day, when you leave your home, when you go to work, and after work maybe you meet somebody to have a coffee, and then you run some errands, and then you go back home. There are a few aspects that remain the same in mobility behavior, and that's been like that for centuries already. For example, we spend about 1 hour per day in the mobility system. So we're on our way for about 1 hour, 60 minutes per day. That's on average the same for all of us. Then we have about 4 trips per day, a little more, a little less, but on average it's 4 trips per day. And usually we return home at night. So this is a very constant pattern that we can observe in all the times, every country. So this is constant behavior. And there's another aspect that we spend about 12 to 15% of our disposable income for transportation. So this remains the same. So what is changing? What has been changing during the last century? For example, we developed transportation systems. We had enough energy available so we could move faster. But still we didn't save any time. We just went further, which led to urban sprawl, for example, satellite cities, and congestions. So what did we gain? We gained several different options to get around, but our activities during the day, they didn't really change. So what are the influence factors which make us decide for a specific mobility option to get to our destinations during the day? First of all, of course, if we look at this nice little guy here, imagine he has a new job and he wants to go to his workplace in the morning, and he wants to be there on time, in time, of course. So he has several options to choose from, several possibilities to get there. He could take a car if he has a car, or go by bike, or take public transport, for example. What's also important is the structure of the city. How far is the workplace from his home? Is there a parking space there, and so on. And social norms are also important for his decision. So is it normal for him to go by car, or maybe it's a Dutch guy, so it's more normal for him to go by bike. So those are the external, the objective influence factors, but there's also kind of a subjective lens, a subjective filter that makes him perceive the different options in his individual way. For example, he has some kind of experiences. He has been raised in a family using cars all the time, for example. He has aversions, he has preferences. And this is now what he takes into account when thinking about which option to take, which is taking place in his prefrontal cortex. So let's say he decides to take a car. He gets in time to his workplace, so he's happy. Great, it worked out. And most probably he will do the same the next day. And now this behavior is repeating, and researchers say if there are about 60 repetitions, this behavior is going to be is going to become a habit. It's going to be automated. It's going to slip into the basal ganglia, which means he doesn't think about it anymore. So it's automated behavior, and mobility is very much based on habits. So everything we do, basically everything we do, not just mobility, is very much based on habits, which is good because we would go mad if we would have to think about everything all the time. But it's also very hard to break habits, to give up a habit. So if he's used to take a car, we have to think about ways to motivate people, to influence people, to give them the option to change their behavior, because if you just change the alternatives that we're providing, it just might not be enough. There must be maybe more than that to change behaviors. So I would like to give a few examples of mobility trends that we are observing, or that we're hoping for, or that we're working on, and discuss a few of the chances, the opportunities, but also the limitations that come along with those different examples. And the 3 examples I'm going to talk about today is automated vehicles, electric vehicles, then information systems, ubiquitously available, everywhere available information, and a shift in attitudes toward sharing, more sharing than before. So, starting with automated vehicles, of course, this has been a dream for a very long time, as you can see here by this picture, which you probably know. Automated vehicles, electric vehicles have a lot of advantages. They are safe. This is one of the main motivations to work on automated vehicles. Of course, it's very convenient to use them because you can use the time in the automated vehicle for doing other things, like in this picture, to play games, board games with your family. Or you could work, or you could sleep, or whatever you like. And it's more efficient to use automated connected vehicles because as they are connected, they can organize transport in cities a lot more fluently. But there are also a few problems, issues that come along when you think about what would the world look like if you have only automated vehicles for people to get out and about in the city. For example, if you look at this nice video that the University of Texas created, all those vehicles, they really run seemingly effortless through this intersection, and it's very smooth and very pleasant. But if you think that you're a pedestrian at this crossroads, you will probably not dare to cross the road. So what we do not know at the moment is how will those vehicles interact with other road users like cyclists and pedestrians. Of course, if you think about it, as a pedestrian, you could also step out on the road and they would stop because they would have to stop. So this could also lead to the fact that traffic would just break down in the cities because pedestrians can cross the streets wherever they want. I like that idea. And there's another issue as well. If we think about automated vehicles for everybody, so we give up public transport, we give up everything else, because it is also very, it's equal opportunities for everybody. If everybody uses an automated vehicle, picking him up at home, dropping it at wherever he wants to go, everybody can use it. So that's basically a nice idea, but as the study of the city of Lisbon shows, if all the transport is done by automated vehicles, so if you can just order your transport, this would also mean that traffic would almost double. Of course, we wouldn't need the parking places anymore because the people would be running around all the time, but we would need this place not for the people but for the cars because traffic would grow. So for the second example, information systems. So probably all of you know apps for transport, for routing information, for example, where you can compare different routes, different modes of transport. I have several, I guess all of you have several as well. So these apps can help us to organize our daily routine, our mobility, and they can also make us more aware of other options, of alternatives, and they can help us change our behavior. So that's very helpful. And so many companies, including my institute, are working on apps, different apps providing different information, and hoping to foster behavioral change by providing these apps. But at the same time, if you think about an app which is trying to convince you that sustainable behavior is better for you, it's not just enough to provide an app, because it's all about motivation, it's about emotions, and you need to want to have this app. And this is what we often don't think about. If we provide these apps and provide information, we do not really consider how to motivate people, how to inspire people, how to get them interested in it. And these motivators, these motivational factors can be very, very, very different. We do not know enough at the moment. We are working on that. So those are several studies that we are doing. It could be the comfort, it could be, many times people say it's time, it's efficiency, but it could also be fun. It could be sustainability, but just for a small amount of people. Although everybody says sustainability and the environment is very important, there are very few people who would really accept to choose options which they are not used to and which are less comfortable than the ones they usually choose. And for the third example, there are several studies that claim that there's a paradigm shift, a shift in attitudes, and that especially young people are, they don't want to possess a car anymore, they have a more sharing attitude. They're used to sharing from other contexts as well. They share music, they share videos, they go couch surfing and so on, so they also share the mobility options. And this is, of course, a great chance for us because it needs less space, less vehicles, creates more space for other things, for a more livable city. Of course, for these young people, it's very important because it's less expensive and provides equal opportunities. So it would also support equality in the mobility system. But at the same time, we have to be aware of the fact that this is not something that's true for everybody, not even for all young people. If you look at social groups, like in this example from market research, there are several different groups which share their attitudes and their motivations and their habits and values, and there's just a small amount of people, a small amount of young people who are really motivated by the fact that they can share something, that they are more flexible than others. Among young people below 30 years, it's about 20% of those people, but the rest, they are more conservative. They are still more interested in having their own cars. So we shouldn't think that with a new generation everything is going to change, which is, by the way, also happening too slowly. But we have to think about other ways to motivate people as well. And it shouldn't also be just by technologies, because those young people, they are digital natives. But for other people, we have to think about other strategies to inform them, to motivate them, to provide them other options, and to motivate behavioral change. So to sum up and maybe to give some inspiring thoughts for the discussion afterwards, mobility behavior is a very complex system, and we shouldn't think that there are simple solutions for complex systems. We also have to take into account rebound effects, for example. And this also includes that we have to consider not just providing new options, new ways to get information, for example. We also have to deal with the emotions that are in mobility behavior, with motivations that can get people interested in changing their behavior. And last but not least, there needs to be a paradigm shift away from more is better. And in the exhibition, it's also shown quite nicely that we can have more with less. For example, if we focus on neighborhoods, it's not necessary to go further and to be more efficient, to use energy better. We could also reduce and have a better lifestyle, better life quality afterwards. So that's it in a nutshell from my side. So I'm taking your questions, happy to take your questions, and looking forward to the discussion afterwards. Thank you.